Hi, we're the Art Apes, and we're on a mission to help you take your art further, faster by giving you the information and the understanding of advanced art theory and how to apply it to your art today. You may have heard the term academic or conventional used to describe a piece of art. Usually the person who says this doesn't know their head from a hole in the ground. Often, the critic knows very little and spouts off a comment like this to sound smarter. Rarely do they expand on the why and the how the piece is conventional.
You'll usually see the critics under opinion pieces.
Yeah, well, I just get tired of them. They just make me sigh. Let's get into what this really means. In some art schools, the students are trained to mechanically observe and portray whatever is placed before them, whether it's a cast, a still life, or a live model. A good live model is a real gem.
I can tell you from experience, having done, that trench coat gets really hot hiding your way through art schools, but having done it, yeah, a good live model, absolutely worth their weight in gold.
What they are is someone who holds as still as possible for as long as possible. I salute all of them. Thank you. Yeah, mechanically reproducing what they see is an important skill. I am definitely not knocking this practice. This, without a doubt, is immensely valuable to train the hand to respond accurately to what the mind sees. This accuracy is essential to being able to have the needed tools in the toolbox. The thing is, true art lies outside of this ability. There are schools where the most artistic qualities are encouraged, but they generally neglect the academic study of perspective, light and shade, and drawing accuracy.
Other videos on our channel.
Yeah. But because of that, these students are poorly equipped to do any sort of fine art. These schools, often colleges, which encourage everything about feeling or happy accidents in the piece of artwork.
I remember.
Yeah, rather than any sort of technical ability. They allow the students to follow their muse rather than actually worrying about any type of accuracy. In my opinion, both schools miss the mark.
They're two extremes, I noticed.
Yeah, that which is emotional is incredibly important, but so is having the right tools to be able to express what you are feeling. In some art schools, in their galleries, you will see rows and rows of lifeless pictures made of models in different poses, and in some circles, they will pass for art. I am not knocking these works because these pictures usually display a truly amazing technical ability. The problem stems from the direction they took to copy the what of what they saw without including anything of the person who created it. It's difficult to explain what is wrong with academic drawing and what the difference is between it and fine drawing. Let me give you an analogy.
I love those.
They're delicious. An example could be a glue joint in wood. You need to leave a little certain tiny amount of space between the parts, so there's room for both the glue and the wood, or else the glue joint will fail. If the joint's too tight, all the glue will be squeezed out of the joint, leaving a glue-starved joint, which is a really weak joint. Or let's say you create an engine that's so finely crafted with the most exact tolerances and the most careful and painstaking construction. Likely as not, the engine won't run, or at least not for long. It will become a lifeless mass of iron. There's got to be some play between the vital parts, an extra bit of space between the cylinder and the piston, They need, and actually they require, some wiggle room, a little bit of an imperfect fit. Dither is the term that Harold Speed used, and I love that word. Without the dither, the engine can't roar to life. Nothing inside the engine would move. In other words, without the play, there is no life. It's the same in an academic drawing or painting. It can be a perfect piece of workmanship, but lifeless. There was no wiggle room left for life.
Yeah, the way I always thought of it is, you know those wax sculptures, you know, the photorealistic ones. That's what a lot of them.
Tussauds or something like that.
Yeah, sort of where its technical ability is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, photorealistic, but it's just something's missing. Now, I think those are an extreme example because Uncanny Valley, maybe.
Maybe, but they do. It's a good point. Now, if we continue this train of thought, what if we leave too much room between the parts of the engine? We both know it will run poorly and sputter. Or what if the wood joint is loose and sloppy?
Ugh.
There's absolutely no amount of glue that can make that joint strong. Now, here's the crazy thing. The more skilled the craftsperson, the smaller the amount of dither is needed to make the engine work. This goes on until all the room that's left in the engine is that which it needs to come to life. The term dither, it's as good as any to describe the needed variance from mechanical accuracy that we use to describe life and energy, and it is vital in art.
And it just rolls off the tongue.
Dither. It is this vital quality that doesn't receive much attention in our art training.
I mean, how would you quantify? I mean, like you just said there, I think I know why. An art teacher, somebody who's paid to do if you're at most, especially in community college art classes, a 4-hour session at most,
right?
Communicating to their students that dither.
It's a hard concept for people to understand, which is why we're covering it here. Okay, it's the difference between the mechanical, unflinching, unforgiving stare of the camera and an art portrait which is drawn by an intelligence. There's a standardization in optics. Through the lens, then some sort of method to record an image in the camera, whether it's film or digital, whatever. But here's the difference. When the recording instrument is a person, every recording instrument has its own quirks with the way it registers what's before it. There are always subtle differences in what's produced by different individuals, and it's that quirkiness of the mind which is the lifeblood of art. The machine-made item, with its lack of play, lack of variety, with this perfection of accuracy, which creates a lifeless object. Wherever there is life, there is variety. Remember that. Wherever there's life, there's variety.
Write that in your important book of important things.
Absolutely. Before machines, even the commonest article was made by hand. It had to be. And it was made as an individual thing of life and warmth and history. Now, everything's turned out to perfection with a machine deadness. From the Oreos we eat to the phones we use, the IKEA furniture, and because it was made by machine, it has no individuality. It has nothing of the consciousness which made it. It's why, in sheer desperation, we collect the commonest rubbish still surviving from a time before machines. We collect whatever it is and call it an antique.
Yeah, I mean, go to an antique store, and back in the day, a lot of those stuff would have been... That's trash.
Absolutely. Okay, just like when we have a sloppy and poorly fitting wood joint, we end up with problems. That when we stray too far from accurate drawing, we are in danger of developing caricatures. 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 There it is. Okay, I'll say it one of these times. The variations in beautiful drawing can be really subtle. For a true master who understood how to give life to line, you should study Ingres.
Ingres?
Ingres? It's actually Ingres. But
French!
you might, by quick glance, assume that his lines are simply accurate. Do you really think an accurate line could have the compelling quality these drawings contain? Just look at these. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Beautiful.
We're going to be getting into his technique and how he designed his lines. It is delicious stuff coming up, but let's keep moving. His drawings are almost always full of energy, and they show the life of the actual person seen through the lens of the artist drawing them. You can always tell an Ingres drawing. The fact of the matter is, the only thing that can be taught, though, is academic drawing. A drawing isn't simply academic because it's accurate, but only because it doesn't breathe life. And don't think for 1 minute that just because we're using some weirdo technique or weirdo idea that your drawing will still not be academic and conventional, because it doesn't. The test is, does it have life? And does it convey a genuine feeling? Hey, if you're getting value out of today's episode, hit the like button. The idea that art can be unconventional is rather foolish. Yeah, as if art can get away from conventions.
Yeah, I mean, I think how many times have you heard it's just my style?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I break conventions. It's
Yeah, get over it. The
we know
closer
who you are.
Oh, we watch you and we are disappointed in you. The closer you get to absolute mechanical accuracy and freezing all the parts in a moment of time, just like a camera, the less lifelike it actually becomes. You can't express life by laboriously copying the exact way things look. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. Have you ever heard of a Tableau Vivant? People will use carefully positioned actors and props so they can recreate a painting, let's say. What they do is they place the people in exactly the poses and the objects in the same position. Of course, we have to explain it's unfortunately another French word, and it means living picture. The crazy thing is that these tableaux vivants are often less lifelike than the painting they are trying to reenact.
It's uncanny if you see it in person.
It is. It's really strange that having people hold absolutely still shows less life than someone who's painted this scene and knows how to paint.
That's the big caveat.
Absolutely. So if a photograph can be less lifelike than a painting, then a logical conclusion would be that there are qualities in the painting which the photo didn't or it couldn't capture. You really need to search out those things that convey the vital expression of life and, importantly, can be expressed by the medium and the technique that you're using. This can be a really important point. In a good picture, you really don't notice the lack of movement. The painting seems alive.
I think, one way to remember that is what drew you to the picture in the first place. I know this gets into further art theory. We'll probably expand later.
Absolutely are.
But say it was how the hair curled, and that's what brought the life to you, or whatever. As he said, those things that make it seem alive.
Yep. I know we've wandered a bit into the weeds here, so let's get back on course.
I'm gonna have to get my hatchet or my machete.
What we want to do is get back onto the topic of academic and conventional aspects of art. Listen, pictures are blamed for being conventional when it's a lack of vitality that's the trouble. It's only when the painter consciously choosing a style that isn't their own and that they don't completely understand and they don't allow his or her own personality to overlay onto the painting. That's when their art becomes, quote unquote, conventional. A bit about some of the strange pieces that masquerade as art these days. Oh, heck, this could be a post on its own. It's crazy. And as Harold Speed says, and I love this, originality is more concerned with sincerity than with peculiarity. Man, I love his quotes. As far as conventions, don't be too frightened of them. The materials that you're using for your art may very well impose constraints on how the subject can be handled. For example, what qualities are present in hair? Soft, fluffy, wind-blown hair that can be portrayed in stone. All we can really do with stone is to show some masses and the tapering of masses, and not so much the individual hairs. The material of stone, for the most part, doesn't support that sort of fine detail. It's okay. What we can do is show the movement of the hair. And in painting, the great painters never lose sight of the fact that they are using paint to express their ideas. Even though you can make a painting hyper-realistic, and we've already discussed why this can be detrimental to a painting, in earlier episodes we discussed on how too much detail can let the viewer use their own associations with the objects in the painting. And this can be bad because rather than letting the artist's emotional intentions and unifying ideas for the picture shine through, it can get all muddled up with whatever associations the viewer has. Look in the show notes below for a link if you want to see that episode. As we've mentioned earlier, it also has the problem of decreasing vitality, power, and the life within a painting. To sum up everything, I guess, academic drawing is all that can be taught. The faithful reproduction to what the eye sees is just as important to the artist as our practicing scales are to the musician. The greatest musicians understood the underpinnings of their music. The practice, implementation, and theory they've learned and explored is what makes them so formidable. Yeah, it's the same for us. We need to understand what we are doing. Everything in art is placed on the work by the artist. It is kept on the canvas or computer screen by the artist. We, being apes, you being people, when making our art, choose what's important and what is not important. We play up what is important and downplay what is not important. We need the know-how to realize when to play up some attribute and when to downplay other attributes. But we need also to be able to train the hand so it responds to what your intelligence, what your mind want to deliver. Hey, yeah, you can teach accurate and academic drawing or painting. The problem with studying the academic to the exclusion of all else is the neglect of expression and the neglect of life. Hey, if you found today's episode had some valuable information, hit subscribe, ring the bell, or make a comment below. We'd be happy to hear from you.
See you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.